Bandwidth for VT Talk is provided by vaporworld.co.uk.
Well, hello, good evening. It's Wednesday night, it's 9 o'clock, and on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, the guy that sat to my left is not normally here.
I'm not, no.
But tonight you are.
Yes.
Tonight,
It's a special favour to you.
Special favour, and actually it's for reasons. Before we go into the show proper, which you can always tell we're doing because we start the titles away, let me first of all apologise for any out of syncness that you may notice on Sav's vocals. And I suppose really you should be saying good evening, Sav. Say good evening, Sav.
Good evening, Sav.
I'll try that one. Try again.
I'll try that again. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, it's going to be one of those shows I can see it coming. I was going to be so serious as well. Yes, there might be some sync issues. This is a Skype kind of. It's higgledy and piggledy. The fact that it's running at all is good. That's what we're saying tonight. Because apparently the interwebs were up and down last night, all over the place. The reason Keith is here will become apparent after I have played in the titles. Because tonight, this isn't the Here's Hour, you are watching VT Talk. Now, if you were watching a couple of weeks ago, you will remember that we had Jerry Stimson on the show. Now, Jerry is one of the foremost exponents in the world of harm reduction. And we were going to have him back tonight. That was the idea, because we were going to be discussing the World Health Organization and what had happened at the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, the convention of the parties, number 5. But here's the thing, Jerry has got some really good contacts, and he is meeting with various different contacts, people that were at the FCTC COP5, to find out what the hell went on. And you'll see why during the course of this show, because we've got all kinds to talk about. And one or two of the things that I want to talk about tonight revolve around what happened there. There's plenty of other stuff as well. But I wanted Keith's input on this, because Keith and I are old sparring partners.
That's one way of putting it. Yes.
Well, when it comes down to politics, we've kind of got differing views.
We have, yes.
We agree about
different
markedly on either end of the spectrum, to the point where we sometimes meet in the middle because we're so far apart. And I thought tonight it would be interesting to run past a few of my thoughts and our audience's thoughts with Keith, a man with, how am I going to put this? I'm not going to be polite. You've got many, many years of experience. You've dealt with bureaucracy, as I recall, in all of its glory from both sides of the fence. And I have to say, I look to you as a bit of a mentor when it comes to the equitable handling of sticky situations.
Really?
Yeah, seriously.
All right.
I'm not buttering you up or anything.
No, gobsmacked.
Are you?
Ah, yes.
Oh, well, there you go. So there's all kinds to go at. And we're going to have an open house. I mean, it's one of those shows where open house, I've got some stuff I want to look at and some things I want to talk about with Keith, but it's an open house as well. And I'm pretty sure we've already got a question. Am I right, Sav?
We've got a question that came in straight away from Vapor Man, and he wants to know how many drops of flavouring should he add to 100 ml of pre-mixed juice. The juice is a coffee flavour, and he wants to add brandy to it.
Right, that's an interesting one. I'm going to say, before we go too much further, when it comes down to mixing your own, I would take like a 10 ml mix, if you like, and put 9 mils of your nicotine liquid and whatever it is in there, and then start off with, say, 5 drops. Try it, and if it's too weak, put another 1 or 2 in, and if it's still too weak, put another 1 or 2 in, and keep on going till you find the right number of drops. When you've done that in 10 mils, it'll give you how many drops you need to put into 90 mils, and that'll get you as close to 100 mils as you like. It's the old format of, I believe it's called Suck It and See, Always worked for me. I think that's how you do it as well, isn't it, Sav?
Yes, always do that. Try it a little bit at a time until you get it right, and then hopefully you remember how much you'd done.
And Sav's an expert. She does this a lot. And Kat, Sav's mum, she does it a lot. And I think I've seen Kat at it before. Well, some of that'll do, and a bit of that'll do, and flavouring, I put a full bottle in. That's pretty much what your mum does, isn't it?
Pretty much. That's pretty much what I do also.
It's like mixing a cocktail, isn't it?
It is pretty much. Yeah. It's like cooking.
I've never done that.
When you first start cooking, you weigh out your 4 ounces of flour and your 2 ounces of caster sugar and
From
your
the recipe.
And yes, you read the recipe and you do it exact. And then when you've done it a few times, it's a case of that'll do. And I've got a large egg. I'll put a bit more flour in. Another spoon of sugar in. It wasn't very sweet last time. And just out of daftness, some maple syrup. Get the egg in, beat the butter up, shove it in the oven. And instead of giving it 28 minutes exactly, you give it 27 because it's a little bit warmer than you thought it was. Suck it and see. Suck it and see. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
A good comparison.
There you go. Who knew? I didn't.
No.
No, there you go. Shall we move on to some slightly controversial stuff?
Yes.
Now, how aware are you of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control and the meeting that went on last week?
This is the World Health Organization meeting that you're talking about.
It is, yes.
Right. Only from what you told me, and when we spoke last week, the latest information hadn't come through. You were expecting something to have been published,
Yes.
which hadn't been.
And it still hasn't.
Right.
Now, I'll show you how this all works, because if we have a look here, this is the document which was the last one published, and as you'll see, it's it's called the journal, and what it does is it tells the people that are there what's going to be happening. So you can see that there's a 4th plenary meeting, the regional group for Africa, and blah 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 blah, and all of that kind of stuff, and the European Union coordination meeting, all that sort of stuff goes on. And then it tells you what's going to happen at the plenary meetings. So there had to be, apparently, all sorts of stuff going on. And it turns out, this is the bit we're interested in, the 6th meeting of Committee A. Right? And down here at the bottom, where it says Control and Prevention of Smokeless Tobacco Products and Electronic Nicotine Delivery Systems, or e-cigs in other words, following presentations of the reports contained in document blah and blah by the Convention Secretariat, the committee discussed the topics. The item remained open. Then further down, we get to the 7th meeting, and here we have item 6.5 continued. And there it says, the discussion continued and an informal drafting group was formed to elaborate a draft decision. Right?
Right.
Following its deliberations, the drafting group submitted its proposal, which was considered and approved by the committee with amendments. The decision would be submitted to plenary for adoption. And that's where it ends. We have no further information than that.
But surely, if those are supposed to be minutes, that's meaningless. I mean, it's telling you about what's going to happen, but not the detail that led up to those decisions being made.
Well,
and what about the previous 5 meetings? Have we information on that?
Yes. They did, well, right. But to the same level.
And are they equally vague?
Absolutely as vague. They didn't discuss anything to do with e-cigs until the Friday.
Right.
On the Friday, that was what went through. This control of electronic nicotine delivery systems.
So, is there no record of the detailed discussions that led to that decision being made?
Well, here's the thing. The World Health Organization, in various different parts of its goings-on, has bewailed the lack of transparency in what are essentially private businesses, tobacco companies. And they're insisting on transparency. They want to know the details of every meeting. They want those to be published. They want to be able to track tobacco shipments from more or less when it's cut through, when it's cured, through when it gets shredded, chopped up, rolled into cigarettes, made into cigars, made into snuff, made into snus, whatever. They want to be able to track it basically from cradle to the ashtray. They're talking about having little barcodes on everything, so everything's totally traceable back to source. That's the level of transparency that they want. And they want to be able to, basically for the world at large, the great public, to be able to say exactly what tobacco companies are doing. And yet, when it comes down to their own bits and bobs, they're not prepared to publish minutes per se, or what was said, or any video of it. Did you know, for instance, that not only did they exclude the public because they thought there might have been some tobacco company associates in the public gallery, couldn't have them anywhere near. Not only did they exclude those, they also excluded Interpol. Interpol. And I found out why. Apparently, at some point, Interpol had received some kind of support from PML.
Right.
PML being Marlboro, the people that do Marlboro, I think.
Right. American, yeah.
An American tobacco company, or it's the initials of an American tobacco company. So they decided that Interpol would not be given credentials of being an observer to what was going on. So they excluded Interpol. This is Interpol. This is the International Policing Organisation. These are folks that track down criminals.
So, I mean, what we're saying is there's no transparency at all.
Apparently, what they're doing is they're doing everything behind closed doors. We have no idea what they're doing. So, what's happening with Professor Jerry Stimson? He's going to be having a few conversations with some people that were there, I believe.
You see, it says that the drafting group submitted its proposal. Well,
Yes.
What was its proposal? I mean, the whole thing's meaningless, isn't it?
Well,
as far as if that's supposed to be some kind of record of their deliberations, it doesn't. It's a non-starter, isn't it? Really,
it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that when they're talking about something which has a major bearing on the health of the public and the well-being of the public, you, me, Sav, everybody watching this, everybody that ever watches this, and yet they're not prepared to tell us what it is they're talking about at the time they're talking about it. More to the point, in order to be an observer, an official observer, you have to basically prove that the aims and objectives of your organisation, and this little enclave we have here is an organisation, right?
yes.
We would have to prove that our aims and objectives are aligned 100% with the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. They will not allow any dissenters anywhere near. How the hell is that debate? How the hell is that transparent? How the hell does that serve us?
Yes, but does that not take you back to the makeup and structure of the World Health Organization? Does this apply to everything they discuss? Are there no detailed minutes or publication of what is said about all subjects in that organisation? Or does it just apply to what they deem to be a confidential item? What's the structure of the organisation?
Well, they seem very keen to publish what they're going to do. They seem very keen to publish. They've made a decision on taxation, right? And they made a decision on illicit tobacco movement, and that was up on Wednesday. Almost as soon as they decided. You would almost have thought that they had the document pre-written, ready just to release like that.
Right. So before these decisions are made, and we don't know what the proposals are which will lead to decisions, are there consultations with interested groups before that?
Oh yes, would you like to say some?
Yes.
Before we look at those, have we got anything coming in from chat?
A couple of comments that have come in from chat. Gillis has said, if vaping is banned in the UK, surely the WHO could be referred to the Court of Human Rights, as they've taken away a healthier alternative and not banned smoking. To which Russell Orders replied, it will never happen. The WHO stuff is not going to change what happens in the UK. And Tracy Collins has asked, is the WHO, it is part of the UN, isn't it?
The World Health Organization is definitely part of the UN, and although I take on board what Russell's saying, it will never happen. The WHO stuff is not going to change what happens in the UK. The UK is a primary signatory to the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, unlike the US. The US hasn't signed up to it.
Right.
The UK is a primary signatory, as is the EU, and I believe that there were discussions at the World Health Organization about getting the EU back on target.
What does that mean?
That means getting the e-cigs banned. That's the bottom line on it. And I'll show you what some of their proposals were. Let's drop across to this, because it's scary. And this is some of the rationale that they've got behind it. It says parties are invited to note some recent developments. First, disposable electronic cigarettes have appeared on the market. These products are aimed at consumers who prefer not to charge batteries or who do not have enough money to buy electronic cigarettes for long-term use. Okay. The price of regular electronic cigarettes ranges from $50 to $150 depending on the brand, with a lifespan of up to 3 years, blah, 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 blah. Some companies are only selling disposable nicotine atomizers, which are very easy to use. Electronic cigarettes, including accessories such as fruit and confectionery flavourings, are also widely advertised on the internet, and a study monitoring internet search engine queries from January 2008 to September 2012 reported that online interest in electronic cigarettes had surpassed that of oral tobacco, snus, and nicotine replacement therapies. It's worthwhile commenting on that, you know. Prior to 2008, a lot of people were looking at NRT.
Yes.
So apparently this statistic that they've got, that 60 or 70% of all smokers want to quit, I would actually see it more like they keep on being told that they should quit, so they think they maybe ought to, but I don't think they really want to, or they would. If you really want to do something, you do it, don't you?
That's right.
If you really want to do something, you do it. So I don't think they really want to quit. I think they should quit. But apparently now, more people are looking at e-cigs because they've cottoned on to the fact that you can maintain your habit and you're not going to kill yourself. It's,
yes. So who's written this? Do we know?
Oh yes, this is the Secretariat to the World Health Organization's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. It goes on even further. Let's move it on. Secondly, one prominent tobacco manufacturer in the United States recently purchased an electronic cigarette company, making it the first major tobacco firm to buy or invest in electronic cigarettes. And so it goes. It's carrying on this same sort of thing. These developments demonstrate that traditional cigarette companies are taking notice of the emerging products. Again, we know this is true. British American Tobacco are looking at it. RJ Reynolds are looking at it. Lorelard's bought into it. Altria, Philip Morris, in other words. That's PML, right, by the way. Altria are looking into it. There are a whole host of big tobacco are looking at electronic cigarettes because they know that that's where things are going to be. And if we look at section 32 here, jumping up the wires a bit, a press release by a market analyst announcing its global report on the projected tobacco industry in 2050 predicted that the concept of reduced harm tobacco products is expected to pick up pace as innovation in non-combustible cigarette mimicking nicotine delivery devices are developed by cigarette companies. The e-cigarette and the non-e nicotine aerosol cigarette will lead the nicotine delivery market over the long term. Right? By 2050, the market analyst expects the novel nicotine delivery device market, including e-cigs, to be equal in value size to the whole of the tobacco products market. In other words, it's going to go up and equal e-cigs. They're going to take over. I think 2050 is too far away. I think 2020 is closer, if I'm to be honest, at the rate of growth that e-cigs are currently seeing. But they are predicting that kind of thing. While we let that fester, have we any comments from chat, Sav?
We do. We have quite a lot. Tracy Collins has said, I would like to point out that being a signatory means little. Just look at how New Zealand refused the Kyoto Protocol after signing it. Vaporman has said they want to ban vaping because the more people smoke, the more cash Big Pharma are making. It's all rubbish to him. Marco Van Basten has said, if we can put special toilets for prisoners in so it doesn't infringe their human rights, they can go away and leave him to vape in peace.
Is that actually what he said?
That's not actually what he said, no.
Okay.
Russell Ord has said, generally speaking, if a meeting happens and nothing is decided, it is not minuted, but organisations have to make it look like something has. They probably had a few shandies during the ends meeting. Tracy Collins has said, what is biting us in the bum is that there's not a large enough body of research. And Ratfinks has said, this nanny state is taking away all our rights one by one and calling it legislation. It's not good enough.
I would agree with that last statement. And I mean, I don't agree with the nanny state in any way, shape or form. We'll take a quick blast of adverts. And when we come back, we'll take this further. And we've got more things to talk about as well. It's all going to be good. But yes, just before I do go though, look at number 31. Recent estimates indicate that the electronic cigarette market is growing rapidly in the European Union and that the total value of the market in 2011 was 400 to 500 million euros, €500 million. Additional statistics confirm that the use of electronic cigarettes has grown markedly in recent years. 7% of citizens of the European Union have reported that they have at least tried electronic cigarettes, and in the UK, the number of electronic cigarette owners is expected to rise from a small number in 2006 to over 1 million by 2013. That's the good news. Time for the ads. Back in 2 minutes.
Vaporworld.co.uk sponsors conversation on VT Talk.
GG, because you want one.
iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
And now back to conversation on VT Talk, sponsored by vaporworld.co.uk.
Oops. Little bit early I was there. Now, just bearing in mind what we said with those, what is it, 4 points? 3 or 4 points?
Yes.
Information that they've taken in and that they've read through, the other developments. What would you make of the electronic cigarette market then, Keith? If you were sitting in a position like that, you know.
You see, what I wonder, first of all, is where is this taking us? For a start, there hasn't been any suggestion that conventional tobacco products be banned, has there?
No, they're ring-fenced.
They're ring-fenced. A very lucrative stream of income to governments, particularly our government.
Oh, we don't charge the most tax, apparently. There are some that charge even more. Did you know the World Health Organization has a league table and gives little gold stars to people with the highest taxes on tobacco?
Well, that doesn't surprise me. So, if, as that seems to be suggesting, that conventional cigarettes, the use of conventional cigarettes will reduce, the income stream reduces.
Yes.
So the inevitable consequence of that is that electronic cigarette products would be taxed in order to maintain the stream of income that traditionally has been derived from conventional nicotine products.
Yes.
Yes. So, can you really see them banning electronic cigarettes?
Well, I think there's two kinds of people make up these zealots. I call them zealots. There are the ideological ones, the ideologues, that there is a document that has said, and in fact, I'll show you how people have said
Well,
how...
you talk about zealots, you've got this ridiculous nonsense. If you go into the supermarket, if you want a packet of cigarettes and somebody surreptitiously opens a sliding door and takes out the packet of cigarettes, how is that going to influence one way or the other young people taking up smoking?
If anything, it's going to encourage them to do it.
Well, of course it is, because, what's behind there? It would make them more curious, if anything.
Well, I mean, curiosity is what killed the cat, as they say.
The whole thing just goes too far. There's a balance to be struck.
Yes.
People recognise the dangers of conventional tobacco smoking, don't they? Now we're into the business of hiding them, selling them in plain packets. That's going to be the next thing.
But it's already in Australia. Hasn't made a hit of the difference, by the way.
Well, no.
Hasn't made a hit of the difference. They know it doesn't work. Australia's already reported. They didn't say it doesn't work. What they've done is they've shown the figures, and the figures show it doesn't work. But that doesn't stop the UK government from considering it. What I'm trying to say is there's two kinds of anti, if you like. There's the ideologue, and the ideologue just doesn't like the idea of people enjoying themselves. These things, whether it's that or a looky likey or anything else, they're not to be tolerated because they look like smoking. Yeah. And people think that's not right. But there was actually a press release in Borneo, of all daft places, right? Another signatory to the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. And what Jerry Stimson was saying a couple of weeks ago was that there are lots and lots of countries, the poorer countries around the world, that just do what the World Health Organization says, just like that. Boink. Done.
Yes,
done deal.
But isn't there evidence to suggest that it's those countries where the tobacco companies are making their money because the rate of smoking is going up rather than down?
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No, I wasn't meaning it to be. What I'm saying is the reduction in conventional smoking in European countries or developed countries, they're making that up by being able to sell more tobacco products.
Yes.
To African countries, for example.
Oh, yes.
So, the whole business of they're still selling tobacco and making huge profits.
Yes. But the governments of the world are making not only the same level of profits, they're making approximately 5 times the profits on tobacco than the tobacco companies are making. That's the thing.
Yes.
The biggest
Yes.
stakeholder in tobacco worldwide, the biggest stakeholder in nicotine worldwide is government.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
the
that's
truth
up
of the
there.
matter.
Yes.
That's exactly
Definitely.
where it's at. But like I say, I mean, the thing about it is, you know, people I think have been wondering how far the reach of this goes. And this piece is from the Borneo Post, right?
Right.
Which is the largest English news site in Borneo.
Right.
And it says here, Sarawak Director of Health has cautioned that if electronic cigarettes are allowed to be available freely in the market, the number of smokers among school children would increase. Now, hang on, before we go down this, all of you that are playing the lame excuse bingo, get your cards and your markers right, and spot how many lame excuses that we know aren't true come up in this press release. And as a I'm not even going to call it an intelligence, as a memory test, see how many the World Health Organisation's chucked out over the last few weeks in the documentation that we've already covered. Back we go. Right, so the number of smokers among school children would increase, which he said is growing at an alarming rate. Cha-ching, there's one. Speaking to the Borneo Post yesterday, Datuk Dr. Zulkifli Jantan said, with the sale of electronic cigarettes considered as legal under the Public Health Tobacco Amended Control Act 2004, enforcement officers from the Health Department would not have the authority to take action against those selling them. That's all right. As long as it doesn't, you know, usual routine, got no tobacco, blah, 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 less harmful than smoking or consumption of others, it's legal for sale. Pardon me. Once school children get hold of the product to try, they will gradually get into the habit of smoking real cigarettes.
Absolute nonsense.
I don't know how the hell they make that out. I really don't. There's a member of the audience tonight, Sue 71 UK, who started with zero nic, didn't smoke before. She smokes a zero nic e-cig, but she's not thinking about going to nicotine or smoking a tobacco,
precisely.
smoking a fag. So there you go. He's lamenting, by the way, saying even though the department's enforcement office has been aggressively organising anti-smoking campaigns at schools throughout the state, the effort to curb the smoking habit among students had been ineffective. And where are we? On another note, he said an electronic cigarette, also known as an e-cigarette, vapor cigarette or an e-cig, is an electrical inhaler that vaporises a propylene glycol or glycerine or polyethylene glycol based solution into an aerosol mist, simulating the act of tobacco smoking. I've read that lots and lots of times on various different vendor sites. It's often marketed as a smoking cessation aid or tobacco replacement. That's nonsense. It's not marketed as a smoking cessation aid, other than by quit kit vendors, which I would urge you all to avoid. The similarities between conventional and electronic cigarettes are in the physical design and the nicotine release, which matches around the same amount of nicotine as a conventional cigarette, Dr. Zulkifli explained. He added that the benefits or risks of electronic cigarette use are a subject of uncertainty among health organisations and researchers. Limited controlled studies are available due to their relatively recent invention. Laws governing the use and sale of electronic cigarettes as well as the accompanying liquid solutions vary widely, with pending legislation and ongoing debate in many regions. The logic of public health officials who have installed bans or instated bans on e-cigarettes is that, here we go, since e-cigarettes look like actual cigarettes, they must be curbed as well. There you go. Because they look like cigarettes, because it looks like you're smoking, that's why they've got to be banned. Where's the logic?
None. None.
It's craziness.
Look like actual cigarettes. Well, none of these things assembled here look like actual cigarettes.
Can
You know, there's what, about a dozen devices on this table. None of them look like cigarettes.
No, not one. And I would imagine that the majority of people that are watching this programme right at this very minute, nobody will have anything that looks like a looky likey, that looks like a tab. I'm pretty sure that there'll be comments in chat around about now. Am I right, Sav?
Yes, I have loads. I just need to grab this last one here, but I'll read it out instead of grabbing it as it's very relevant. And Tracy Collins is saying, oh yes, it's that violent TV video game argument again. We've heard that before. Going back to what I've got earlier, Thomas has said not only the taxes regarding what we were reading out before, but it's the missing income from the pharma companies and the tobacco companies. Yansu has said, well, big tobacco... I'll try that again. Big tobacco gets their money. One would think it doesn't matter to them how their product is used. Tracy Collins has also said, as long as doubt exists that e-cigs do not cause harm, they can justify any action. More research is needed and in a hurry. To which Thomas has responded, but you can't make long-term research in a short time. Marco Van Basten has said he's surprised that cigarettes aren't being sold with the smutty magazines in black-fronted shops. Russell has said he agrees with Keith that that is where, regarding talking about countries like Africa, that is where the WHO thing comes from, and it's got nothing to do with us in the UK. Marco has also said poor countries will toe the line or they will lose their funding. Tracy Collins has asked, does the WHO support methadone clinics? And Gillis has asked if you can read out number 34 from that document as well, please, Dave.
Number 34.
Yeah.
I will seek it out even as we speak. Forgive me squinting. It's got to do with eyes. All right. Yes. Haha, yes. Here we go. Another aspect to consider, this is from the World Health Organization, is that if ends are regarded as imitation tobacco products and banned, all ends would be covered, regardless of whether or not they contain nicotine, tobacco extracts, or make health claims. Parties may wish to consider that strong measures to prevent further spread of ends could be considered under a number of provisions of the World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, including Article 5.2b, which requires parties to adopt and implement effective measures for preventing and reducing nicotine addiction. Most ends contain nicotine and would therefore contribute to maintaining an addiction to nicotine. Thank you for reminding me about that one, Gillis.
So why don't they recommend the banning of cigarettes?
Because Big Pharma... Well, if you follow the money...
That was a hypothetical question, really. I mean, the whole thing is a nonsense.
It is, but follow the money. Here you've got the wooden dozen, right? Sitting in Seoul, in Geneva in 2 years' time. It was in somewhere in South America 2 years ago. You've got the wooden dozen sitting in 5-star hotels. The ones from the poor countries, right? They get their travel and hotels paid for, but they have to travel economy class on the aeroplane, mind. Can't travel business class if it's being paid for by the World Health Organization. So they get gone there. They get taken there to basically to vote in this stuff, because you know if it's being paid for you to go, you're not going to argue with the people that have paid for you to go, are you?
No.
So they get taken there. They're puppets, right? We want to ban e-cigs, all in favour. That means everybody that we've paid for and all of the ideologues and zealots as well. We'll have you all voting for it. Yes, we'll all go for that. So the World Health Organisations end up doing that. So you've got the wooden dozen sitting there saying all the right things. We want to see an end to tobacco, right? And because of all the propaganda of the last 25 years or so, everybody believes that tobacco is a really bad thing, right?
Yes.
I don't. I think it's personal choice. You still smoke the odd cigarette.
I do, yes.
I wouldn't look down my nose at you. If you want to have one in here, wouldn't bother us in the slightest. Go for it, sunshine. Your body, your choice, you do what you want to do. And it wouldn't bother me that there was second-hand smoke, because I think that's a myth as well. And people think I'm misguided. They need to read all the studies. But let me just finish this. I'm on a rant, right? So you've got the wooden dozen there doing all the good things and saying what the world now believes to be the good things. Tobacco's bad, get rid of the tobacco companies, get shot of it all. We want to see an end to tobacco use by 2025. All of this kind of rubbish, all this malarkey, right?
Yes.
Then you've got the pharmacy companies that are sitting there going, hang on. We need them to be saying that, but we don't actually want them to do it. And then you've got one of the new guys on the board. Why is that? And it's dead simple, really. Because there's a circle. There's a lovely circle, right? You start when you're a young'un, back of the bike sheds, smoking a tab. Sparking a tab
Yes.
up with your mates. Cough your guts up the first 2 or 3, then you're one of the lads, right?
Yes.
It's the way it was when I was a young'un. And you carry on, and then you get to a certain age, and either you decide, or your beloved decides, or one of your offspring decides, or your parents decide, whichever way, you're packing it in, right? Get down to the doctor. So you go down to the doctor, and when you get there, he says, yes, do come in, take a seat. Patches, gum, the nicotine inhalers, right?
Yes.
So at this point in time, Big Pharma's going, yes, we've got some more on, that's lovely. And we know, here's the good bit, only 7% will stay off them. They'll go back on the tabs. They'll go back and smoke.
Is
the other
that the
night,
figure, 7%?
Yeah, 7% success on NRT. The other 93% will go back on the tabs. So the tobacco companies are fine, because where does the nicotine come from that goes into the patches and the gums? And
Yes.
from
Yeah.
the tobacco growers.
Yeah.
So they own all of that. So they're happy as Larry. They're still getting their money, actually probably getting more out of NRT. And then a little while later, something else happens. I don't know, a near relative goes with lung cancer or from a broken leg or something. And you go and see the doctor again, you go back on NRT. There's this circle of money going round and round and round to Big Pharma and Big Tobacco. And neither one wants to see the end of tobacco sales. At least the tobacco companies are honest about it. The pharmaceutical companies are not honest about it. They will fund people that go to the FCTC. They pay money into that kind of thing so that they can go there and keep saying the right things, but at the end of the day, they don't want to see it banned either. But the same doesn't apply to e-cigs, does it? Because with e-cigs, the pharmaceutical companies don't have their finger in that pie. At least not until one of them buys IntelliCig, which they will, right?
Yes.
They haven't got a finger in that pie, so they just do not want to see it doing anything like it's doing at the minute. £500 million in Europe. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That would help a lot. I suspect we might have some comments from chat.
Oh, sorry. That was my cue, wasn't it? I've got a couple of comments that have just come in. Yansu Finn has said they want us to die, preferably before retiring, and buy loads of petrol and alcohol before we do. Tracy Collins has also said governments are removed by a few steps, and these WHO types even more so. That's why more and more people are choosing to ignore them. And Tracy's also just typed in, yes, Dave, when the tobacco companies buy into e-cigs, that's when things will change.
Yes, but when we talk about banning,
Yes.
I mean, you remember the American experience of banning with alcohol.
Prohibition.
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 So what did you have there? Sort of gangsters getting themselves into a lucrative market. So obviously you had people who were policing that at considerable cost.
And making extra money out of it.
Extra money out of
Little
it.
backhand.
I can't see any government actually banning tobacco.
No, I don't.
For many reasons. A lot of them hypocritical.
Absolutely. On which note, we'll go into the adverts, and when we come back, let's see what else we've got. It's all good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Different to the Here's How It Is, isn't
It's
it?
quite different. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Vaporworld.co.uk sponsors conversation on VT Talk. And now back to conversation on VT Talk, sponsored by vaporworld.co.uk.
And we're back in the room. What was that you were saying while the adverts went on?
No, whatever comes out of this, what I'd be interested in is when it's cascaded down to individual governments.
Yes.
And more particularly the European Union. You know, the finest example of democracy in the world, the European Union.
You think so?
No, I'm being sarcastic.
I was going to
of
say,
course.
I think it's just the Germans having a third go and doing it by the back door.
You know, the European Union, individual governments, what's going to happen?
Well, I think what will happen is that the likes of Borneo and Burkina Faso and all these ones that get funding to go to the World Health Organization will just fall straight into line. I would hope our government's got more sense. And certainly, I see raised eyebrows there.
Really?
I said I would hope. I didn't say I think.
No, yes, yes.
But you know me, I know I used to be true blue, and I'm not anymore. I'm a libertarian.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you've never divulged that to me in the past.
What, the fact that I'm a libertarian?
I'm really gobsmacked.
Well, you've always
that
known
you're
my...
right. So I mean, your right-wing views are sort of moving a shade.
I think libertarianism is probably extreme right-wing, to be truthful. Because as far as I'm concerned, there should be no government interference in personal decision-making or what you do with your own body. That's very much a socialist view, is that they control everything.
No, I think that steps over the political divide.
I think you're right.
It's all about control now, in every walk of life.
Indeed.
You see this every day, the sort of nanny state image, and irrespective of which political party you belong to.
It is. It's all about control.
That's
It's
right.
all about grinding the proles down.
That's right. You
It's
see
what it
that.
is.
You see that every day.
Absolutely. I think there's there are people saying, you know, that sense and government don't compute.
They don't.
They don't,
That's
do
a
they?
good way of putting it.
Dead right. That was all. Get that. Sorry, Sav.
Very good way of putting it.
It's all
I get
right.
wrong. I get wrong for reading things out of chat. I only read chat on a Wednesday night, you know.
It's quite
Although I have
correct.
to say, it's going flying past. Right, where was I going to go? Oh, yes. All of this that the World Health Organization's been on about, of course, is nicotine-containing products.
Yes.
But have you seen the rise in something called electronic shisha?
No.
Have you seen it, Sav?
It.
This electronic shisha. We were talking about this the other day, and it would seem,
It sounds like some sort of extreme religion.
but it does a bit. But you know what shisha is?
I must confess, I don't know.
You know the Hubble bubble pipe. You've got it like
the Turkish type of
Aye.
right? Yes.
Yeah, that's a shisha,
Oh, I didn't know they call it right.
and they smoke in there. They don't smoke tobacco in it. They smoke molasses, what's called molasses,
Right.
and there is almost no nicotine in it. And the shisha bars up and down the country, and they were a big thing.
Well, you can buy these devices in these Oriental shops, can't you?
Yeah, they're called head shops, and they're called bongs. But yes.
I asked for that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, basically the idea is you put a briquette of charcoal in foil on the top of your molasses, and it heats it up, so it shouldn't actually burn it,
Right.
right? And it's widely regarded as being a safer alternative to smoking tobacco. The reason being that there's no nicotine in it.
Oh well, we'll be homing in on those next.
Oh, you think so? I think you're right. I think they will home in on them. I think they'll go for them big style. Now, if you're
You
on...
know, anything that stimulates enjoyment.
I'm pleased you said that. I had to do it. If you're on Twitter, follow E-sisha, It might be E-shish official, but it's E-S-H-I-S. E-S-H-I-S-H. E-shish. Follow them. He's a pain in the backside because he retweets all the positive tweets that he gets, but they do not get a lot of tweets saying how good this thing is. And this is all folks that don't smoke, right? They just like the fruity flavour. They're just inhaling a fruity flavour. And they're selling on piece around the clubs. I'm not talking working men's clubs, I'm talking ravey clubs, you know. Discos, as we used to call them, clubs as they call them now. They're selling on piece. 12 quid a time, disposable.
I didn't know that.
You're supposed to get about 300, what do they call them? Clouds? Is it clouds they call them, Sav?
Something like that, yeah. Something
300
like that, yeah.
clouds out of an electronic, well, it's an e-cig, basically, with some very heavily flavoured juice in it. Glycerin, probably. I'm going to try and get hold of some. I'm going to try and film, actually, in one of these places. Bazillions of folks using them.
So, I were talking about, doesn't this hail from Turkey and some of the Middle Eastern countries?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Hails from countries where, paradoxically, e-cigs are banned.
Right, but I don't think the World Health Organization would interfere with those.
What, the Middle East?
Because that would raise race issues.
Wouldn't it, though?
That it would be really disadvantaging a certain section of society, wouldn't it?
I bow to your greater knowledge of the politics of these things.
Again, I'm being cynical.
Well, no, I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right. But it's interesting that these e-shish things are selling on piece around the clubs. And I noticed that the OK Smoky now has an electronic unit for sticking on top of your shisha pipe that does the whole mahoosie for you, but with using I think it's 2% nicotine e-juice, and it's 89 quid or something like that. Fascinating. You've got to buy your own hookah, your own shisha. You can't call it a hookah. A hookah is something entirely different. Well, in this part of the world, anyway. So yes, you can do all of that electronic stuff. But did you know e-cigs are now being marketed surreptitiously?
I didn't, yeah.
Are you a Twilight fan? I'm sure you must be.
Twilight? That's as far as I know.
No, Are you a Twilight fan, Sav?
I wouldn't go as far as to say fan, but I've been known to observe it now and
You
again.
have you? Well, you can help me out on this one then. Who is this? What do you call him? Robert
Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Now, let me just read from the top. It says, former entertainment lawyer and Lindsay Lohan manager Michael Heller is changing the way celebrities promote products with his New York-based company Talent Resources, a global strategic marketing firm.
Right.
That's important. Instead of obvious celebrity campaigns, Heller uses celebrities to stealthily draw attention to companies by posting photos to their social networks. It says, the wave of the future is putting brands with celebs on smaller activation, but not marrying them to the brand long term.
Well, doesn't this fit in with the fact that I've read somewhere that the government are going to introduce legislation which would allow products to be displayed on television programmes?
It's already in. It's called the product placement regulation.
Right.
It's been in for 2 years. If you
hasn't been in as long as that.
Yeah, it has.
I only read about it, months ago?
In what newspaper?
I can't remember.
Because I know the Daily Mail ran a news story yesterday that actually happened 12 months ago. No, this has been in for 2 years because we're subject to this regulation. It's very close to 2 years. In other words, if, for argument's sake, if Copperberg, right, had paid to have this glass on screen, then we would have to, at the beginning of the programme, have a P on screen. Right. not a wee.
I know what you mean.
We'd have
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'd have to put a P on screen to say that there was product placement, but you don't have to say what the product is. And that's what you're right.
Well,
that's what this
unless
is.
I missed it, I haven't seen any evidence of product placement on day-to-day television programmes. I may have missed it, but
It generally isn't there very long, but it's not obvious.
probably
You'll see
should
it
get a bigger telly.
Well, it could be bigger telly, but let's go back to the piece. But you're right, that's what it is.
Sorry, I was...
Oh no, it's quite all right. It says here, a few recent celeb and company collaborations we bet you didn't realise were setups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a few folks have contacted me over the last few days, telling me about this Robert Pattinson, who happens to be in this Twilight. He's a vampire, apparently,
Right.
in
Goodness.
whatever it is. Is he good looking, Sav?
He's quite easy on the eye, yes.
Is he as easy on the eye as Brandon?
No.
Toss up, thought so. Robert Pattinson smoking an electronic cigarette at the New York premiere of Cosmopolis. I personally give Robert Pattinson those electronic cigarettes at the wedding of my friend, Hella told THR. It was before he and Kristen Stewart broke up. I gave it to both of them, which is perfectly true. He in fact did, and Kristen Stewart's been reported as using them in the Hollywood Reporter over the last few days. So product placement for e-cigs, I think we're probably there. We're also fast running out of time.
Nearly 10 right?
Now, I'm going to be running straight from this show to RY4 Radio America.
Right.
Well, as soon as I'm finished this, I'm dialing into RY4 Radio America because I'm guesting on there for quarter of an hour, apparently. I'm hoping it's 10:15, not 10 o'clock. But there you go. And that's on the usual VP Live, which somebody's sure to clag a link into afterwards. So, yes, I'm desperately trying to keep an eye on the time here so that we get it right. But there you go. E-cigs being used for product placement. I think that's brilliant.
Yes.
I slipped this in. I read an article. It wasn't about e-cigs, but it was very much about product placement. I won't say who it was, but there was a certain celebrity that tweeted about how wonderful a certain Microsoft Pad product was and did it from her iPad,
Yes.
which I found quite funny.
Yes, there's a certain amount of that goes on. But there we have it. Have we any more from chat, or have we've not got time, have we really?
Not really. I've got quite a bit, but I'll breeze through the. Gillis has said, regarding the shisha, will it be deemed to be an ends device and will it be banned with all the others? And it also said, how about we turn vaping into a religion? Maybe they'll leave us alone then.
And on that note, it's a damn good idea actually. On that note, I think we'll say bye-bye.
Yeah.
So there you go, Keith. You've had your baptism of fire, your first VT talk.
Oh, that was very enjoyable.
You enjoyed that, have you?
Yes.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Thanks, Sav, again for doing the wonderful job you do, and Kat, who's been wrangling the questions in chat and passing them through to Sav. Thank you for that. Thank you to everybody for watching. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. I'll still say we've got the best chat on the face of the planet, and I'm not wrong. Till next time, ta-da.
Good night.
VT Talk was sponsored by Vaporworld, introducing the straight-up range of e-liquid from the USA containing real tobacco extracts.